you're going to get more of whatever you allow and whatever you enable. So meaning that if someone comes to you and they're like, guess what Lucy said? And you say, what? Well, then you're going to hear more drama. And if somebody comes to you instead and they say, well, guess what Lucy said? You say, I don't give a shit, go back to work. I'm Michael Mogill, founder and CEO of Crisp, the nation's #1 law firm growth company. I've built my business through practice, not theory. Crisp started with just $500 to my name and has grown to over 8 figures in revenue over the last few years, earning a spot on the Inc. 500 list of the fastest growing private companies in America. Our approach has been to take everything we've learned about generating massive growth within our own organization and help the country's most ambitious and committed law firm owners do the same for theirs. In each episode of this podcast, I sit down with innovative market leaders from the legal industry and beyond to learn from those who thrive in the face of adversity, challenge the status quo, and define what it means to be a true game changer.
This is Jessica, Head of Coaching Strategy at Crisp, and today we're flipping the script for another special edition episode to get Michael's take on the real reasons that toxic cultures exist, why you endorse what you tolerate from your team, and how to know when it's time to part ways with disengaged employees.
So the fact that someone's disregarding directives, well, that doesn't really work in a business. Stay in joy and leave in peace. Those are your two options. It's either get on board with the program or let's help you transition out, because this is not going to be tolerated here.
That's coming up on the Game Changing Attorney podcast. Welcome back to my favorite part of any day.
Oh yeah, the AMMA. You know, I was thinking, it feels so good. And I know like the entrepreneurs listening to this, you know this feeling when it's the end of the week and you have worked your ass off, and when that week started, you didn't know how you were going to make it through because you knew the giant obstacles that lay before you. You knew all the problems you had to solve. Maybe you even thought, I don't even want to get out of bed today. And you came in every day like a warrior. Every day you fought these battles, and one by one, you solved these problems. And here you are at the end of the week. And by the way, you may be listening to this at the beginning of the week, but I'm just going to pace you for what could be your end of the week because we're recording this right now on a Friday afternoon. You get to the end of the week and you're so damn proud of yourself. You know Friday night, woo, it's going to be a lot of fun. You're gonna
fall asleep on the couch at 8 p.m.
God, why you got to give it away? Why you got to give it away? It's like you got big plans. You're going to get home. You're going to put the kids to bed. You're going to have a nice dinner. Maybe you're going to throw on a movie or a show. You get the new Bad Boys out, on streaming. It's going to be an awesome night. And then you sit down on the couch and you pass out and you fall asleep. But you do so because your mind is at ease and you sleep beautifully. And then you wake up a few hours later and you're like, why the hell am I sleeping on my couch when I have a bed?
Welcome to me at least every weekend, maybe some weekdays too.
So you wake up and you go to the bed and then you go back to sleep. And that is the reward. That is a weekend that you earn. It's not the same if you're kind of like, are all lackadaisical throughout the week and you don't really figure anything out and you ignore all the problems and you get to the end of the week and you're like, yay, it's Friday. No, you don't take any pride in yourself having not solved any problem. And you can fake it, but at the end of the day, the victory doesn't taste as sweet. Whatever you're going to have for dinner doesn't taste as good because you know that you should have done a lot of things. There's a lot of should, and then you feel a little guilty. And then you go home and you're humiliated and you're ashamed of yourself. And you know it. You know you should have done better. So you can try again next week. So if you're listening to this at the start of the week, this is your opportunity to have a great week and take some pride in winning the day and day by day winning the week so that you too can get home on a Friday night and feel like an absolute savage and pass out on the couch 10 minutes into the new Bad Boys movie.
All right, and we are in AMMA.
Yep, there we are. Yep, you guys submit the questions, and we do our best to answer them. No question is a bad question. And when you have a question, you can submit that question to 404-531-7691. You can text us. It's a real number, 404. It's an Atlanta number, 531-7691. You can text me right now and be like, Mike, what you doing right now? And if you text me after 9 p.m., I won't answer you until 5 a.m. because one, I'll be asleep, and then I'm going to wake up. So with that, why don't we get started? The only thing I will say is that we do run other types of episodes on this podcast. We've got our traditional interview format. We bring on experts in the legal industry and beyond. And then we've got our encore edition, some of our most popular episodes. We bring them back. And then the AMMA, where you guys submit your questions, could be about anything. It could be about business, leadership, marketing, culture, team, etc. It could be about life. One day, maybe it could be about politics.
Not
they
right
won't
now.
let me go there.
Nope.
But you can submit the questions, and I'll do my best to answer them. And if you get any sort of value from this show or any other show, all that we ask, we keep this podcast free, we don't run ads, is that you please go and leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify and share the show with a friend. With that, Jessica, what do we got this week?
All right. I feel like you might be a little spicy today. End of the week. Got some good ones. All right. One of my leaders who has been with my firm since its inception has recently started displaying a sense of entitlement and superiority over other team members. His attitude is affecting team morale and collaboration. How can I address this behavior?
Yeah. So there's nothing quite like when you have someone who's been with you a long time and they're a great leader and they've been doing great work, and then it all goes to their head and they develop a little bit of an ego. They start to act entitled. They start to act superior. And you know that's not good for business because that's not very leaderly. What happened to the humility? What happened to being a servant leader and being vested in the success of others? But I'll give you a foolproof solution to solve this problem immediately. And it's actually probably not what you think. In my experience, if you want to neutralize this threat, because a lot of times the reason why somebody gets a big head and the reason why they get that ego is because life becomes a little too easy for them. They start going through the motions. They believe they've been kicking ass and they'll continue to kick ass every single day. So the best thing you can do as the boss of the leaders, the final boss, is that you simply give this person a new challenge. You can assign them to a new project or a new initiative. You have to challenge them to put them in a position where they're uncomfortable yet again, because the reason they're probably acting this way is because when's the last time that they were uncomfortable or that they were challenged? And by doing so, they will be humbled. They cannot act entitled and superior when they themselves are having to gain new skills and new capabilities and having to learn something new and solve a new difficult problem. I do this all the time because you always got to keep your leaders on their toes. And you got to do this for yourself as well. That's why people get in cold plunges, because it's uncomfortable and because they don't want to do it. So if you have a big project or a big problem that needs solving, look no further than the entitled leader for who you need to assign this to. Say, you know what? You can even butter them up and say, you've been kicking so much ass and you've been here so long, I'm confident that you can figure out just about anything. And they say, yes, sir. And then you hit them with that new project and they're going to get real quiet because they thought they were going to do something that they already knew how to do. But in order for them to be successful at this, they have to develop new skills, or maybe you give them a really challenging case, or maybe you give them a big firm initiative that is going to force them to expand their capabilities. The lesson here is that you don't have to wait for them to even get entitled to do this. You can continuously do this. With our leadership team, pretty much everyone has a project they're working on every single quarter, and it's a big project that makes a big impact to the business. And it's not a small task. It's not something you can do in a night or in a week. It's a big project that forces you to level up your skills. You're going to have to learn new things. The whole ChatGPT, when that came out.
Yeah.
And we started like an AI initiative company-wide.
Task force.
AI task force. And looking for ways, we assign this to our leaders to look in their departments and to identify all the different ways in which we can leverage AI in each of their respective departments, different AI platforms, different AI software, technology, and so on, to be able to make their team more effective and more efficient, to focus on more strategic work. And every leader had to learn these platforms, and they had to become an expert at prompting in AI. And that was probably the easiest part. And then they had to also dig in and check in everything their team members were doing, where time was going, and how they could seek out any inefficiencies. And then they had to present in front of the other leaders, and in front of me as well. So this forced everybody to level up. And I can promise you, we did not have any entitlement during this period.
Correct. All right, to keep on that train, question number 2. I have a paralegal who has been with the firm for over a decade. Recently, she's been disregarding directives and acting as if she's above the rules. This has led to tension among the team. What steps can I take to bring her back in line with the firm's values without causing major disruption?
Well, so this is one of these types of situations where if somebody is outwardly just misbehaving and disregarding directives, this isn't an entitlement issue. This is an issue with somebody not aligning with the values of the firm. And if you were allowing this to continue, then you were saying that that's okay. I mean, there's the expression. You say it all the time, Jessica. You endorse what you tolerate. And if this is acceptable to you, then you will allow it for it to continue. And if this is unacceptable to you, then you're going to put a stop to it immediately. So the fact that someone's disregarding directives, well, that doesn't really work in a business unless they're paying you, which I'm assuming in this case they're not. Right? There's always like the expression where, a lot of people are used to signing the backs of checks, but not so much the front of checks. The point here is that you have to make it very clear to this individual the difference between what is acceptable and what is not acceptable. And you have to align on that. And there's really two options. Jessica, what are the two options?
You can keep endorsing it or you eliminate it.
Yeah. And as we say, what is your plan for getting on board?
Yes. Stay in joy or leave in peace.
Stay in joy and leave in peace.
Yes.
Those are your two options. It's either get on board with the program or let's help you transition out, because this is not going to be tolerated here. And in fact, a lot of times, the reason why you see this in so many law firms and so many organizations, they say, why do I have so much drama? These people, it's never ending. I got drama all day long. Well, you're going to get more of whatever you allow and whatever you enable. So meaning that if someone comes to you and they're like, guess what Lucy said? And you say, what? Well, then you're going to hear more drama. And if somebody comes to you instead and they say, well, guess what Lucy said? And you say, I don't give a shit, go back to work. Okay, you don't have to say it quite like that because they're going to leave a complaint, whatever. But you can say, that does not concern me, Martha. Okay, you can say it however you like. But the point is that whatever you endorse, you allow, and in many ways, you're going to enable that. So you don't want to enable bad behaviors. We have to make it clear that, look, it's okay. I'm glad we all like each other. We all want to work well together. But the important thing is that we have to execute when we're here. We have to be a winning team so that we can all go home in time and be there with our families, and we can then come back here and continue to crush it out. But once it becomes all this other fluff and noise of disregarding directives, and this person wants to act this kind of way or whatever, just that kind of noise, all that does is that hurts the team as a whole, and it creates a lot of friction and drag on the business, which makes it very difficult to get things done. So you got to put a halt to that immediately. It's like training dogs. If the dog pees in the house, you got to notify the dog right away that that's unacceptable. You don't wait until the end of the day and say, hey, Rufus, when you did that in the corner, I prefer you don't do that again. Okay? You have to call out that behavior immediately in private, right? And say that is unacceptable. Just so they can be clear on the difference between right and wrong. So if somebody decides to act that kind of way, sometimes they're testing boundaries. And sometimes they're testing to see just how much can I get away with. We see this with our kids.
I was about to say, sounds like
all
our 3-year-old.
3-year-old is this way all the time. Like constantly
I don't think it's
boundaries.
going anywhere. I wonder where she gets that.
Yeah, constantly. She's testing boundaries.
Yes.
Right? Because she wants to see how far can I take this.
Yes. So adults want to do the same thing.
Adults will do the same thing.
Yes.
So you got to decide, are you going to let the inmates run the asylum? Or are we going to maintain some order around here?
Yep. All right, to round us out today. So one of my senior lawyers who has been with the firm for many years has started to slack off, coming in late, taking long lunches, missing deadlines, etc. I'm afraid that if I voice my concerns, they'll leave and I don't have enough resources to cover their work. What should I do? Oh, everyone's been here before.
Yeah. Slack it off, late lunches, missing deadlines. What the hell, right? Like you're probably wondering what's going on here.
But also, I can't lose them.
But you also can't lose them because
or so you think.
You feel that they're pretty important to you, and how are you going to make up for the work that they're already doing? You're already spread thin. What you going to do? Like, gosh, you're stuck between a rock and a hard place. Well, first and foremost, my recommendation is in these types of scenarios is that I wouldn't jump to any conclusions and I wouldn't assume anything. I think it's important to sit down with this person and figure out what's going on. Because a lot of times, if they were very consistent for a long period before this, and they start to act in erratic ways, like they're showing up late, they're missing deadlines, in my experience, sometimes there's things going on personally. And you don't know what's going on. Maybe they're going through a divorce. Maybe they're, struggling with something else. Maybe they have a family member who's difficult, like a tough health condition right now. You don't know. And I think it's important to lead with empathy and first figure out, hey, I noticed that, normally you're super consistent. You've been super on point, but lately I see that you're arriving late. You're starting to miss some deadlines. I know that's not characteristic of you. It's like, how can I better support you? What's going on? And sometimes these people will say, nothing, I'm all good. Okay. And you say, well, it's interesting you say you're all good because I was hoping that something was fucking wrong because obviously this behavior is unacceptable.
Yeah.
That would actually explain something. But the fact that you're all good means that you're either not open to sharing with me, right? I can't help you.
Or you're just checked out.
If I don't understand, right? So that could be the other thing. Maybe they're just checked out. Maybe the internet told them to quit quietly, right? Maybe they were on Reddit and they said, you know what? I work hard and I'm not appreciated, so I'm just going to do the minimum amount I can do to just not get fired. Does that sound like somebody you want to have in your business? Does that sound like you're going to lead a world-class organization?
But I don't have people. If they're gone, Michael, you don't understand.
See, I used to think the same way too, and I understand the situation because we've been through this.
No, we have. Yes.
Okay? I used to think, man, what would I do without him? John Morgan said, I remember on the first podcast, he said, Michael, there's graveyards filled with irreplaceable people. I said, you know what, John, he's right. So the reality of it is this person, if they are checked out, is they left a long time ago. They just continue to come in for the paycheck. Okay, they quit. They're just coming in to get their paycheck right at this point. You're still paying them, but you're paying somebody who's already quit. They said, but they're still doing a little bit. So, well, that sounds like a world-class organization, right? They're not terrible. Is that the new gauge of team member success? When we look at our team members, imagine you were putting out an advertisement and you're talking about the quality of your firm and your firm culture. You say, our team members, instead of saying world-class, you say, they're not terrible. That is the barometer at which we gauge the excellence around here. Not terrible, acceptable. Sure they arrive late and sure they miss deadlines and sure they take long lunches, but we provide you with the absolute best representation. You say it with a straight face. You'd be like, that's crazy. We would not be living up to our promise. So to bring it all back, if they are going through something personally, you can figure out, hey, what can I do to help you and support you? But even then, you're saying, look, you are helping and supporting them in some respect by providing them with a fucking salary. And you're allowing them to pay their bills and support their family. So you can be understanding, maybe this person needs some time. Maybe there's ways in which you can be flexible with them as maybe they're navigating something really difficult. And you want to be understanding of that because, over the years, we've had people go through all sorts of things and difficult challenges and so on. And the empathy helps. You want to be understanding. You want to be a human being, for sure. Absolutely. But you need to have clarity. You need to have an end date in mind of saying, well, great, I want to help you, but how long am I helping you? Because it's like a few weeks, okay, cool. A month, okay, cool. But what about the rest of your life? Because obviously that wouldn't be acceptable if you were working on that type of time horizon. You'd say, well, we can hang on and we can pitch in for a few weeks, but if we're talking 3 years, I'm not sure that works for us here at the firm. And then worse yet, if they are just checked out, you can start with this one question. Works 100% of the time. You sit down with them, bring them into the room. I recommend you plus another person, right? And
always.
Them. Always have another person there.
Gotta have a witness.
Gotta have a witness. Don't have these conversations one by one. Come on. Be smart. And you sit them down and you ask them, let's assume their name is George. Say, George, do you want to be here? And then you shut the fuck up. And you can have awkward silence for as long as it takes to allow them to process the question. And depending on the length of time it takes them to answer that and how they answer that, you can clearly determine whether they want to be at your firm or not. And if they don't, that's okay. It's absolutely okay. Because at the end of the day, don't we just want people to be successful?
We want volunteers, not hostages.
Of course. And maybe they'd be happier in another role or at another firm or somewhere else where they could be much more successful. And maybe that aligns better with their needs. Maybe that aligns with their lifestyle. Who knows what? Great. Isn't that better than having somebody exist in your law firm that's not an advocate for your firm, that doesn't want to be there, that doesn't want to contribute to the mission? So you have to think about it from the standpoint. I know you're thinking, oh man, but what would I do without him? Or I can't make it through this short-term period of time, or you think is about to be forever, but it won't be. Eventually you're going to find another person, and more often than not, the next person that comes in is an even better version of the person who went out. So you're going to solve problems, and this probably ain't going to be the last time that happens to you either.
But you've survived 100% of your hard days.
That's right. Your track record for making it through bad days is 100%. Never forget that.
Yep. All right. That's it.
That was 3?
That was 3.
Whoa.
That was it.
That shit flew by, man. I thought we were on 2.
Too much fun.
Too much fun in the sun. All right, guys, have a great one. Thanks for listening to the AMA. And if you got any value from this episode, please let us know, actually. Let me know. If you hated it, let me know too. If you love it or hate it, text me 404-531-7691 and let me know. Maybe you want to hear more stuff like this. Maybe you want to hear less stuff like this. Feedback is a gift. All right, guys, have a great one.
You've been listening to the Game Changing Attorney podcast with Michael Mogill. If you found this episode valuable, here are 3 free ways that we can help you grow your law firm. Number 1, download the first chapter of Michael's book absolutely free at gamechangingattorney.com. Number 2, you can shoot Michael a text at 404-531-7691 and ask him any question you'd like. You might just hear the answer on the next episode. And finally, number 3, if you can leave this podcast a 5-star review, it will help us gain access to more influential thought leaders and bring their lessons learned here to you. For more information on this episode, see the show notes in your podcast app or visit legalpodcast.com.